In this video, I'm going to share how to make the perfect spelt bread with olives. I'm going to share 8 tips on how to get the bread moist, soft, and a great thin crust. My name's Sue and I love sharing recipes with spelt flour, and today this spelt bread is going to be so delicious. It's even better when you toast it. So in the stand mixer, I'm going to add all the flour. I'm going to do a combination of white spelt flour and whole grain spelt flour, and I'll pop the measurements above. So in there I've got 300 grams of white spelt flour. I'm doing this combination because I love the balance of the whole grain and white, but if you want to do all white or all spelt, go ahead. In here is 200 grams of whole grain or wholemeal spelt flour, and I've got 7 grams or 2 teaspoons of just the fast dried yeast. Just going to mix those together a little bit just to combine the ingredients. So my first tip I'm going to share is how to get the perfect warm water without having the tool like a thermometer to measure it. So I'm going to use 100 grams of boiled kettle water, and in my jug here I've got room temperature water, 250 grams, and then I test it and it's like the perfect temperature water. So I'm going to add my water into my stand mixer. I'm going to blend that together until I get a shaggy dough. Okay, I'm just going to show you, it's kind of 70% mixed through. Now I'm going to add all the extras, like I've got 1 teaspoon of salt, I've got 3 tablespoons of olive oil, I've got 75 grams of chopped green olives, which have already got the seeds taken out of them, and I've got 25 grams of toasted pumpkin seeds. Now I'm going to blend this, or knead it, for about 5 minutes. A tip with spelt flour, another tip, is you don't need to mix it for as long as regular white flour or bread flour. Tip number 2 is I'm going to remove my dough once it's kneaded and place it in this medium-sized Pyrex bowl, and I've just greased it with oil, and then that will make it easier for me to know when it's doubled in size. The dough reaches the top. Just going to bump that speed up a little bit. Another tip I should have mentioned was once the bowl looks clean, on the sides like this, the dough is ready. And the number 3 tip that I should have mentioned was the magic of the olive oil. And great way to release this. The reason the dough is so moist is that we've used olive oil in replace of any dairy or eggs. And that's what gives that the nice texture. Stretch the dough a little bit to coat it with the oil. And I've got this magic cover. I'm just going to cover this and rest it for 60 minutes until it's doubled in size. Little tip, I think we're up to number 4. Prepare your tin before you start, and I've greased it with a little bit of oil. You can use butter, and pop some paper in and leave it long on the sides, and then you can easily release the bread when it's done. So let's check out our dough. Wow. It's bumped my cover off, so that's well and truly done. I always use rice flour, so I'm just going to put some rice flour on the bench, remove the dough. Now I like working with quite a sticky dough. If that's a struggle for you, at this point you can add a little bit more flour to the dough to make it easier to handle. So add some rice flour to the top. What we're looking to do is just to knock out some of the air. So the next is a folding technique I do. I just bring that forward and that to the side, and then I do each side over, like that, depending on the shape you've made. Flip it over. Make almost a loaf shape if you can. Just need some flour on my hands. And then gently pop that into your tin, like that. Just going to cover it with this cloth. It's not wet, it's just dry, and rest it for another 45 minutes. So we've got 15 minutes to go on our dough rising. Time to turn the oven on to get it ready. So we're going to preheat this. I'm going to use the fan setting, and I'm going to make that 210 degrees Celsius. And I'll just set that timer for 15 minutes. and my rack is on the lower area of the oven. This will be heating up and it'll be nice and hot once we're ready to pop the dough in the oven. Our bread has risen and covered the whole tin now. I've got a little ramekin of water here. I'm just going to brush the top. This is just to give it a little bit of extra moisture when we're baking it, instead of adding an egg wash. Grab a little knife or a blade and just do a few little cuts. You can do it any way you like. So this is tip number 5. Add the ramekin to the base of the oven. It'll create steam and you'll get that perfect thin crust. And then we're going to add the bread to the base of the oven, bottom rack. Oven's nice and hot at 210, and the first bake I'm going to do for 10 minutes. Lower the temperature to 200 degrees and cook it for another 20 minutes or till it's golden brown. The bread's nice and golden and cooked. So tip number 7, after we've rested it for 10 minutes, we remove the little clips. And the easy way to get the bread out without it sticking is just lift up these side pieces of paper. Voila. And removing it now, it means that we won't get the soggy bottom. So the number 8 tip, I'm covering it with the cloth and letting it cool on my bench now until it's completely cool, and that'll ensure that the crust is nice and soft. I don't like a hard crust, so it's nice and soft to eat and cut later on. So I waited till the next day to cut this open, and we had some for breakfast, and look at how fantastic that crumb looks today. I've got lots of air in here, and I've got this lovely muffin top, and it smells so good. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed how to make this spelt olive bread, and I hope you've enjoyed the 8 tips that I've given you to make the perfect spelt bread. Stick around and I'll pop some videos so you can watch some more ideas on how to make spelt bread. And thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Hej då from Sweden.